Welcome to Impact Ready, a show dedicated to helping you elevate your impact in the world. I'm Steph Saffer, your host. Let's explore the power of showing up with intention and energy each day. This is for those who seek to make life truly meaningful. Get ready for impact. Hey, everybody. Hope you're having a great day today. I want to talk about a topic today that I call the language of your life. Language of your life. And this is actually one of my favorite things to talk about with my clients, especially when we first start working together. I coach them on how they speak about their existence on this earth, whether it's their relationships or their physical health or their physical body, their career, their ability to make things happen in the world, their kids, their marriage, all of it. I think this is probably one of the most important topics to me specifically. It's something I've been working on for probably the last 5 years very intentionally, is observing and becoming aware of the way that I speak about my life and the story that I tell about my life and my existence. It's so important to me. And so I'm really excited to dive into it. I think we've all had an experience like this in our life where we have a friend or a family member who's very consistently negative or complaining. And you might ask how they're doing, and they say, "Oh, I'm so busy," or "tired. I'm so tired." You ask, "How's your week going?" And they say, "Crazy," or "stressful," or "it's a shit show." When you start observing people, you will really start to notice this. You start to see it. People are in the habit of complaining about their life, or maybe the habit of criticizing or being judgmental or gossiping or sort of being devil's advocate. That's another one. They'll say things from, "I can't wait for this year to be over," or "this month to be over," to things like, "This economy sucks," or must be nice for them." That type of language. It's wild to me because the words and the language that we use about our life, all of that has power. Words have energy to them. And the way that you speak about your life, it's a direct reflection of what's happening internally and emotionally for you. And here's the thing, team. Most people are totally unconscious about the words and the language that they use when they're talking about their life. They're unaware of the story that they are telling. It's crazy to me because people don't realize that words have energy and therefore have influence on them and the people around them. There's a book called The Hidden Messages in Water. I think it was written in the 90s. It's an older book. And essentially a Japanese scientist did an experiment where he placed labels that had positive or negative words written on them. And he would put the labels on vials of water. And then he would observe the crystalline structures that would form when the vials were frozen. And it was so interesting because the vials that had labels with positive words on them, they would form these ornate, beautiful crystalline structures when frozen. And the water that had negative labels on them with negative words, or water that was polluted or he'd put chemicals in it, those vials when frozen did not form crystals. They just formed nothing or like clumps. And it's so interesting. It's an older book. You should definitely read it. It's called The Hidden Messages in Water. But it speaks to the energetic properties of how words can influence physical structure, the physical matter. The way that we talk about ourselves and our life, the sentences that we speak about, because they have energy to them, they have an influence on our experience of the world. I catch people saying a lot of things like, "Oh yeah, 2023, such a dumpster fire," or "this month is a nightmare," or "when my kids are teenagers, it's going to be so hard," "I'm so busy, I don't have enough time." All of these phrases have an energy to them, don't they? I mean, I'm sure when you're listening to me speak them, you can feel a very specific energy. It's also the tone of voice that people use when they say them. The tone of voice that we use has energy to it, and you can feel it. And that's not the worst of it, because people are often in the habit of using a very specific tone and using specific language, and it's complaining tone and language. And it's about their spouse, about their kids, about the way they look, about their physical body. They talk negatively about their team, their physical environment, their clothes, their circumstances, their friends. And because people are not conscious of it, they don't realize that they are sending messages constantly through that language. I mean, we are consistently broadcasting a message. We are, as humans, we are consistently broadcasting a frequency and a message through our being, through our energy, through our language, through our tone. And when people are using this type of language, they're sending messages to the people listening. Your audience picks up on this energy. And you can see why this would be problematic for anyone who's trying to have a positive impact, whether you're a leader or a parent or a team member or a business owner. The language that you use on a consistent basis, it matters. And beyond sending messages to people and, anyone who's in your sphere, you're also sending messages to your cells. I talk about this with my patients a lot. Your cells are always listening. The words that we say, they influence our thoughts. We can grasp that idea, right? The words that we say influence our thoughts, which then influence feelings, which influence neurochemicals and hormones in our brain. The body is so intelligent, guys. And not to get too deep into the biology of this, but our cells have this ability to monitor and perceive threats or stress, our internal guidance system monitoring stress. And it happens through mitochondria in the cells and what they call the cell danger response. Dr. 𝐀𝐻𝐭 talks about this cell danger response and how even psychological threats like stress can transfer through nerves, through hormones, through neurochemicals, through the microbiome. And essentially our cells hear the thoughts that we are thinking through biochemistry. I mean, the implications of that are crazy. You can feel the incredible potential for that to influence and affect the way we see the world, the way we experience things, but also affect our well-being, our physical, our emotional, and our mental well-being. Now, obviously, there's some nuance to this, as always. Every topic has a gray area, right? So we all know that it can be really fun to be sarcastic or self-deprecating at times. I like joking around. I have some very funny friends who are great at sarcasm and are pretty self-deprecating. We've all been there. Like, it's fun. My family is very dry. Their sense of humor is just that way. So I get it. It can be fun. But I think the distinction is about the feeling behind it. So is the sarcasm or self-deprecating humor, is it about being lighthearted? Does it bring levity? Or is there some resentment behind it? Is there some irritation or frustration? Is there fear behind it? If you don't know the answer to that, just go by how you feel when you're talking that way, or go by how you feel when you're listening to somebody else talk that way. Just check in and see what you're feeling in that moment, and you'll know if it's a good feeling or not. And that is the message that you're sending to yourself and to others. I generally try to be very aware and never speak about myself or my life or my wife or my body in a negative way, even if it's meant as a joke. I just don't even really go there anymore. It's something that I've become much more intentional about, my language. And for me, it's just very important. It's a structure that I try to implement in my life, and it's very, very helpful. I don't want there to be any confusion for my cells ever. This is kind of interesting to think about too. We can all understand that the way we think influences the way we speak, right? The influence also goes the other way. So the way we speak can inform the way we think. For example, if you teach people new color words, new words for colors, it can change that person's ability to discriminate colors. So for example, if somebody knows red and orange, but then they're taught magenta and blush and sunset and all of this, spectrum of color in between red and orange, that gives them a whole new way of discriminating colors. Same thing goes for if we teach people a new way of talking about their life and speaking about their circumstances, it can give them access to a new way of thinking about their life and their circumstances. So this happens a lot with my clients. They might say, "Oh, Steph, I can't change that behavior. I'm just wired that way." And I might challenge them and say, "Well, what if that was a perspective that you hold? What if you weren't wired that way? It's just a perspective, but you're in the habit of behaving in that way." That new way of talking about their behavior, it opens up a new way of thinking about the behavior. And they start to think, wow, maybe I could change. And this is why coaching is powerful. It's why therapy is powerful. It's why any type of self-development or self-awareness is powerful. The language of your life helps shape and direct these experiences in life. And this has a direct correlation with your ability to have impact on people in a positive way. I know you can feel that. I'll give you another example. I have a coaching client that I've worked with for a long time, and he used to say things like, "Oh man, this week has just been chaos." And I'd say, "Well, what's your week like?" "Oh, I'm hanging in there." With his business, I'd ask, "Oh, could be better." And I was observing this for a couple of sessions. I'm not exaggerating, by the way. This was the tone of voice that he would use. After a couple of sessions, I had said to him, "I'm going to repeat back to you what you have been saying to me the last couple of weeks about your business and your kids and your life." And I started to repeat the phrases that he had said. I'd written them down, started to repeat them back to him. And as I was repeating these phrases, his face just started to drop. And at the end of my summary, he looked at me and said, "Damn, that's really negative, isn't it?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. You tell me. What's the story that you want to be telling about your business and your marriage and your life?" And he said, "Well, it's not that. It's definitely not that. That sounds horrible. When you string all those sentences together, it just sounds horrible." And it really shook him. And this happens a lot. It happens all the time because we are not aware that the language that we use has an energy to it. We get in the habit of speaking in a very specific way, and we lose our awareness to it. And it is a direct reflection of what we are feeling inside about our circumstances. In the case of that coaching client, he had a lot of anger and resentment and irritation and fear around his life that he wasn't acknowledging, and it was coming out in his language as criticism and critique and complaining. And he realized that he needed to start taking ownership of that so that he could change the story that he was telling. So why is it important to look at this stuff? Why pay attention to your language? Why be intentional about it? Well, because it affects your health down to the cellular level. It influences your ability to impact others, to inspire them, to motivate them, to energize them, right? It affects your ability to energize yourself and get yourself pumped about your life. It shapes your perspectives, the ways that you see the world. It tells a story about your life, one that you are consistently reinforcing. I think it also very powerfully affects what you see in the world, because where focus goes, energy flows. So whatever you're saying to yourself becomes what you look for, and therefore what you experience and see. I always ask myself this question: what is the story I want to be telling about my life? So ask yourself that question. I challenge you this week to think about the language of your life. How do you talk about your partner? How do you talk about your spouse? How do you talk about your kids? Do you complain about people? Or do you lift them up? How do you talk about your career and your work? Are you positive about it? Does the story that you're telling convey the message that you're really feeling, that you want to convey? Does it have the impact that you want? How do you talk about your life, your adventures, your dreams, your desires, the possibility? How do you talk about your physical body and your health? Are you down on yourself? Do you have a bunch of inner critics talking in your mind all the time about how you don't look as good as you should or you used to, or you don't like what you see in the mirror? What do you say externally to people about your appearance or your energy or your mental clarity? All of this stuff makes a huge difference, team. And it's important because it conveys a message to the world and your people. And it's an energy that they can pick up and they can feel it, and it matters. So that's my challenge to you this week. Just be aware, listen in. What's the language of your life? And is it a reflection of the story that you want to be telling? I hope that this conversation spurred on some insights for you. I'm really excited that you're here. And as always, thank you for being ready to impact. Thanks for listening to Impact Ready. I hope today's episode inspired you to own your impact and recognize that you are powerful. By elevating our energy and awareness, we can create exponential change in this life. If you enjoyed today's insights, share them with a friend and subscribe to the show for more. I truly appreciate you. Thanks again for being here.